So we spoke last week, or last strong, because I'm not sure what everybody else is on, but we were strong we were strong those few days. Look, strong days week. You know, that's the code of the matrix. Men, days, week. So these words meaning something that takes and removes energy from you. If you're in a daze, if you're weak, if you're min or minute, these are the units of time. And it does kind of hold replete though, because when you're in time and you're aging in time and time is finally trying to get its grip on you and you start accepting that this is going to be it and all that kind of stuff, you know, all that happens. You start, you know, you get a little bit dazed by the reality. It's almost like you're punch drunk, right? Like so much stuff can happen and the news is all crazy and the next movie and the damn Isaac Asimov with the drums and the beats and all this kind of stuff and the graphics and all this. And like your nerves are just like completely stretched out. And it's just like, wow, like the being that we're actually in these times is going through a lot. And in that process, what I wanted to bring awareness to is that we talked about how there could be like this pretend and there could be this like illusionary nature to reality. That so many things can be happening around you. It can kind of draw you into the reality and it's like being in a movie. Right, it's like, oh, this stuff is happening around me. So I'm like, I literally switched from watching this on TV to now living in it. What's going on? And it's like, we spoke on how there was like this illusionary field that is around the reality that's kind of like the skin over it. And what I see that illusionary aspect of the reality, which we've actually grown to create things in, and we use it almost like PlayStation where we manifest in it. It's like Play-Doh. It's like a Lego. We just kind of put stuff together and build it together and live in it. You know, it's kind of like Roblox. You know, we just have this thing where we just create stuff. We create our house. We go and live in it. We create the things that we'd like to have around us, and we solder it all together and saw it together and all that. And then we build it. And that's what we do. We live inside of our projections and we create things inside of our projections. But the field in which all that stuff is created for, it can also be used to spread like an energetic flow across different spaces. And we can see now, especially in society, that we have that energy in our environments all the time. That's whether it's the cell phone, whether it's the TV, whether it's the YouTube, social media, all these different things are different vibrations and frequencies that have access into our space. And we also have access into those spaces. So we call them like their pipelines or their tubes. And so these pipelines and these tubes is kind of the visualization of what you would see like in the scene, The Matrix, when they kind of had to unplug Neo from the Matrix. This is just symbolic to all of these different things that you're involved in and all the different people thinking and talking about you and all the plans that you have for the future and all this kind of stuff is basically plugged right into you. It's kind of like becoming or has become your network. It is woven within your DNA. And so that field itself is what we're addressing right now, when I wanted to make sure that we're not falling into the byproduct of what I would say are empty threats and inaccurate data. Okay, if you want to write that down, that we're basically, we don't want to fall into the field of empty threats and inaccurate data. You can imagine there's lots of pit bulls, you know, they want to scare the hell out of you, but you know, that saying, are you going to bark all day, doggy, or are you going to bite? Like you could see where there's like a movie, they may even get the music going on in the news now. And they got this whole story that they're putting together and they got that same lady in the monotone and she's narrating the whole thing. And it's like, this is an act in itself of theatrics of convincing everybody on that other side that this is what, you know, this is what's happening. This is what's real. This is what you should be paying attention to. When most of that is generally empty threats. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're seeing a lot of this now. Just a news article. Oh, the governor says he's going to do X and people need to do this. And then you already got people lining up to go do it. Like, oh, shit, let me get away from the governor. Let me get, stay in compliance. Let me stay in conformance. I don't want to buck the society. That's why we end up having so many rebels on the side of consciousness, because they was never playing the radio anyway with the whole, the fictitious game and scheme that everything is all perfect in the reality. So they were breaking out of the matrix early. But then you had this other group of people that they wanted to stay in the matrix so much and wanted to be comfortable in the matrix because they had developed a fear of confronting what's controlling the matrix around us, or what can control the matrix around us. And that has been done through even the abuses that we've seen that has happened to a variety, almost all cultures, if not all cultures. Right? So if you're from Poland, if you're from Ghana, the story of your people about 4 or 5 generations ago is dealing with a lot of the controller's heavy hand. So, of course, genetically, one would kind of start either completely bucking, like you just like every time you come back stronger and you're more aggressive, and you're always consistently in your DNA a problem and a thorn in their side, or you would be after generations more conforming. You would even start birthing children that would actually work on the sides of opposition. And this is still the ebb and the flow of the DNA of the pattern of the person. So this is also like when we go to do work, we can visualize those kind of things. When you're pulling somebody out of the matrix or changing them from being what would be an Agent Smith and they don't even know it. That's the other thing about, like, if you watch the movie, every time Agent Smith jumps into something, the person does not know that they are being taken over by Agent Smith. It's just that they've kind of conformed so much to the reality that they've let certain parts of themselves go. So they've actually opened up certain things within themselves that allow them to be a direct channel for that kind of frequency, right? And so with recognizing this and realizing this around us, we have to come into alignment with making sure that we're not making decisions in our lives. Also, we're not screwing up our nervous system, becoming all crazy just because of what you're hearing every day on some of these channels or from your friends, that you start making irrational decisions. Okay? Because really what we're dealing with right now, it is a test to see what the response is. So even if you found yourself thinking a certain way or doing certain things, never think that you don't have the opportunity to correct the pattern. If you found yourself in a position where you had to do something that you did not like, now you got to kind of come into that awareness, like, okay, I'm starting to get into the field of where I'm doing things that I don't like to do. It's encroaching on me now. But then you also come to the awareness that there's actually been quite a few things that you've been accepting that you don't like to do. And because everybody else does them, you're doing them too, like going to work and all this other stuff, right? And then you start falling in on yourself, like, I got to go to work because we all got to make money and nobody has it. And all of this is just the chaos going on inside of your own field. It's like your own little pain box, until you realize how to unlock yourself and get out of it. So when you're seeing all this happen in the reality, the last thing you want to do, especially since you've been doing a lot of work at releasing yourself from all of that, is put yourself back into it.